we live in a time where there's a lot of just skepticism and cynicism about all sorts of things, about politics, about family life, about culture, about the church. A lot of that is grounded in a sort of failure to think critically. That might seem almost like a contradiction, but I think people tend to just feel things and to run with it. They don't stop and actually reflect upon what they're thinking, you know? And I think that's something that sort of just pervades this moment where we're at right now. People aren't thinking critically about things. When we're talking about God, we can't afford to be sloppy. Analytic theology is deeply rooted in an older way of doing theology. That's why a lot of people have said that analytic theology is just taking it back to scholastic theology. Coming up with clear, concise definitions is a huge part of analytic theology. You're breaking down concepts into smaller pieces that are easier to handle. One of the things that analytic theology really prizes is an emphasis on clarity and being able to see other people's points of views in a very charitable manner, and you try to address it with the full seriousness that it deserves. I think when we're talking about God, right, I think we want to get as close to as possible to talking about the way God actually is. In theology, oftentimes we throw up our hands and say, oh, like mystery, like this is beyond like our comprehension. And to a certain extent, there are things about God that are like that. But I think a lot of times we give up too easily and settle for, I guess, muddled or confused sort of discussion about who God is. And I think a lot of times what ends up happening is that that we hide behind a lack of clarity. I don't know, I see how theology actually affects the way people live. You know, I see how theology affects discipleship. I see how theology affects preaching and even interaction with people's neighbors. And I've seen how bad theology can really hurt people. Not just like within the church, but it can even hurt our Christian witness. And I think for me, that's one of the reasons I want to make sure that we're doing theology well, right? And obviously that leaves room for different traditions and different approaches and whatnot. But I want to see people doing theology well, because theology done well not only impacts people's lives, but I think it says something to the world about who God actually is.